This is the Art Beauty Podcast where we tell the real truth about the fake shit. And today, my fabulous co-host is Anna De La Cruz. She is the head of product development for Glow Skin Beauty. Anna, thank you so much for being with us today.
Amber, I am so excited to be here. Huge fan of the podcast. I have been a listener. I'm so glad to be on it now. So
thank you.
Join the club, I feel like.
I am a huge fan of you. We met on the New Beauty Live show, and I was just blown away by how much you know about beauty. And I was so impressed by the fact that you are involved in product development. So you're not just a brand rep, no offense to them, but you really know your stuff when it comes to ingredients, when it comes to formulations, when it comes to the science. And Glow Skin Beauty is really one of these companies that when I looked into like the ingredients, they really are sourcing some really potent and high quality stuff. So I'm honored to have you on today. Before we go though, I have to ask, what's going on behind you here?
Okay, so I'm set up. Clearly, I'm not in a home office situation. I'm at a dining room table situation. So behind me is my little collection. It started with milk glass, and then it expanded to German modernist pottery, which I'd never heard of, but I quickly became obsessed with. And then one of the loves of my life, Jonathan Adler, as well.
I see some Jonathan
in there. Yeah, because I mean, how can you not? He's just amazing. So it's so much fun. But yeah, very tonal and tone on tone, which is funny because we're talking about trends for 2021. And that's one of those things.
Really?
Trends coming up. Yeah.
I have to give you props. It's so beautifully styled. And it's one of those things I feel like if I tried to put on, I always look in like, I love a good home magazine. And it's like when it's like the, what is it? L'objet, I'm whatever, objects essentially in French that you have. That like people can like put together and it kind of looks like it was done so effortlessly, but it's like, but this is so beautiful. You've got so many there and you really, I just love the arrangement.
Constantly shifting. And then I do have to get to the process of like eliminating when I'm like, I get something new and I'm like, ooh, sorry, you're going to retire now. You've done a good job. Thanks for that.
I love the white trim too around the cabinet that you have it on.
Oh yeah. So I did that. So I got that. That's one of my little Craigslist finds. And I sanded it down and then sanded it, painted the edges, and then did a little pattern on that back piece. So,
I love it. Yeah. So you're one of these people. I love to craft. And I feel like if I had more space in my life, I would definitely go and like I read Apartment Therapy all the time. Do you know Apartment Therapy? And I'm always looking at, or like IKEA life hacks or all of these things where people like this go and pick something up. They're like, I found this on Craigslist and I reinvigorate it with new life with a coat of paint and, a creative backsplash. It's gorgeous.
Yay. I love it. I know. I say in another life, I'm going to be an HGTV star. So we'll see. But this life has been pretty fantastic in terms of when you talk about this industry, just beauty, skincare, ingredients. It's so incredible. I was thinking about it before we started today, and I was like, I think it's been 17 years that I've been around in terms of being licensed, working in the treatment room, as well as having worked for several different brands kind of prior to coming into really the brand and product development side. So it's been so much fun because I really can just bring it all together. There are things that I look at where I'm like, no, nobody would ever do that in the treatment room. Or, at home when you are that like product and ingredient obsessed and you're like, no, that doesn't make sense together. So It's so much fun when you're able to do something that you do kind of like pinch yourself where you're like, this is real. Like this is real life. We're doing this. It's great.
Thank you for saying that because I feel like we are trying to start the year off. I think that so many people focus on like, okay, January is the time that I've got to detox and I've got to be fitness savvy. And it's like, give yourself a break and maybe just like be grateful for the things that you have. I wanted to kind of start my year off. Normally we do it with like a fitness piece and a diet piece, which I think are great because no matter how many times we hear that we need to work out and eat better, we all pretty much need to work out and eat better. So I do love those pieces, but I was really excited to sort of start my year off not in that, and really focus a little bit more on, our internal wellness, being a more beautiful you. And I think a lot of that stems from gratitude. So thank you for sharing that with us. Loving where you are in life.
Absolutely. Love
So,
it.
on that note, let's talk about, we're in this new year. Last year, I think a lot of us were happy to kiss goodbye. And
Yep.
I don't want to say too much about this year because I made that mistake last year saying 2020 is going to be so great. And it was in a lot of ways. Look, I got to meet you and do a lot of
Yeah, that's
new
a
beauty
good
live,
takeaway. Yes.
right? But so talking about, I was so impressed by the fact that you are really so involved in, like you said, formulation, in figuring
Mhm.
out like what works, what people really want. And I wanted to know, since you're on this inside, like what are you predicting for this year in terms of beauty? What are you seeing?
Yeah. There's so much, and it's so funny. So I try to scale it down because
Hmm.
what you know about me is I tend to be a little long-winded. I like to be a storyteller, and I love to talk anything this industry. So I try to do kind of like a top 10, like a five
Okay,
skin, five beauty. It might be six skin and five beauty, but
fair.
just general trends. And I don't. Some of the things are not going to be like whoa. I think some of the things we've kind of, we eased into in 2020, where we were introduced to a lot of times, very different new norms for us, whether it was the workday, how we're interacting with individuals, on a pretty frequent basis. So that's where we're at. I worked with my Glossy beauty team behind the scenes as well. So they were amazing at helping us kind of collect this list that we're going to be reviewing today.
All right, so we're going to start
So,
off with skincare, right?
yes.
All right,
Yeah.
so
I feel like it's that natural thing because, it's like what you put on first anyway, kind of
right.
like the order of use. So it felt right to
Okay,
start with.
so let's start us off. What are some of the trends that you see in terms of skincare?
All right. So trend number one is your skin but better. And I think how we do that, and a lot of this is going to be fun because it really will be that skin and beauty or skin and makeup hybrid product.
Okay.
So it's things that are really bringing out and enhancing luminosity, evening
Mm,
complexion, just really promoting radiance overall. So light washes of color, things that are dewy, really starting to, kind of continue to see those finishes of just
okay.
radiance and luminosity. Skin tints in general for color and washes. We are definitely feeling that for 2021.
Which means that like we really need to also step up our skincare, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it
Okay.
is. That's one of the really beautiful things in terms of how you can find these active formulas. A lot of times they were just in serums, where
Right.
that's your most concentrated formula. That's the smallest molecule. That's when you're going to see change. And that kind of links to another trend, but you're really starting to see high levels of key ingredients and actives in so many different things like masks and eye creams and moisturizers. So you can really see transformation. You can, have smoother texture, softer skin, clearing of breakouts, brightening hyperpigmentation. It's really incredible when you're able to really customize your approach.
Speaking of this customization, and we have done New Beauty Live together, and I always said the only problem with New Beauty Live is waking up the next morning and figure out which awesome product you want to use the next day, right? Because there's a lot of stuff, and it's funny because working in beauty, and you've been in beauty 17 years, we get to try a lot of things. And sometimes I wonder, you're speaking of customization, and just Glow Skin has so many
Mhm.
different products, highly targeted products. How do you recommend to people like that they know which ones to use? And,
Yeah.
when do you switch it up? And what do you recommend on that front?
Yeah. And I love it because we didn't plan this. Like this literally links to another trend when we are talking about personalized skincare.
Right.
I feel like brands like this term has been around for what, 4 or 5 years at least, where people talk about customization. And I feel like, so it might not be completely new, the term, but brands continue to help define what that means to their customer. So I think that they're getting really a lot more specific in terms of understanding zoning, understanding what's going on with your skin, what's your concern. A lot of times we kind of led with your skin type. And I remember like 10 years ago being at trade shows, and you have like a list of people or a line of people, and you have like 5 minutes with each one. You're trying to help find personalized recommended products for them. The first question was always like, what's your skin type?
Right.
Oily, dry combination.
Right.
Where I feel like brands more and more so, that is not what we're leading with. It's much more about, tell me about your skin. What's your concern? What do you want to resolve? We will find things that work with your oil production level, but it's much more about, listening to that individual and what is it that they're wanting to seek resolution for? What are they wanting to focus on? And then we'll find the product to match it. So
that's great too, because I feel like when they used to ask me, because I remember when I used to go and get a facial, it's like, and that was always it, like, what's your skin type? And it's like, well, combination maybe, but sometimes it's dry, but then sometimes, and you know what? I think that most of us don't really know. So I think it's way
100%.
more easy to communicate. Hey, I feel like, I've got congestion here, or pores, blackheads here, and on the sides it's dry, and or maybe I've got rosacea or irritation, or I don't want the fine lines and wrinkles. It's easier to talk about that than to try to identify our own skin type.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times, and even I feel like now, where people will say things like, oh yeah, so I'm going to throw you for a loop. Like, I'm really tricky because my skin's oily and dry. Right. And then I'm like, okay, well, tell me what that means. Like, what do you mean oily and dry? And they're like, well, oily because it's always shiny, but dry because it's really tight. And I was like, perfection. So oily, that shine, you have oil production. Right. But the tight feeling is probably more so related to your water content. So your skin's oily and dehydrated, things like that, where it is a lot of times people, when you just focus on that skin type, they're like, I have no clue. I'm both. I'm all of the above. And so it does go back to what's going on. And I think, moving away from that one size fits all approach, when you look at the skin, a lot of times it's like your face products, your eye products. Right. But now it's more so like what's going on, especially with females in our, kind of that hormonal and that adrenal, that stress zone of our chin, our jawline. Jowls. Yep. A lot of times, we can have, whether if you're going into like the slackened skin, the aging, where you're wanting to focus on strengthening elasticity, that lift, or if you're experiencing breakouts. And a lot of times the stress-related breakouts are under the surface of the skin, never coming to a head. But I don't necessarily want to use that product all over my entire face if that's not what's going on with my face, because I'm going to be dry. I'm going to get irritated. I'm going to have that, that irritation reaction that is just not good. So I think much more about just what's going on with your skin and really starting to understand that you can zone your products. You can choose things. It doesn't have to be complicated, but this is how you'll see really great results.
Oh, you mentioned the jowls. It's like hitting 40. It all changes. It all,
oh my gosh.
Like that's where it starts, right?
I love it, Amber, when you said hitting 40, because I remember, when I got into skincare, I was in my 20s, and I heard this term, I heard this where they said, hey, at age 30, you start losing 1% of collagen per year. And I was like, oh my gosh, but in your 20s, it's like so far away. And then like on my 30th birthday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start losing 1% of collagen per year. And then, so I frequently think of that, but we have great ingredients. We've got great products that help stimulate it. So many great services too. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started with microneedling. Everyone that is close to me knows I'm obsessed with microneedling.
Are you, I haven't done, I'm not, I need to get into this because I hear more microneedling with the RF is really good. I was doing,
that's 2021 trend.
I was introduced to Althera a year ago. And to me, I don't know what your feelings are on that. Yeah. I mean, it's expensive, but I felt like it worked. And then I was looking the other day and I'm like, oh, I got to go back.
I know. And I feel like 2020, a lot of us, we had a lot of time in between, or we had to, unfortunately forego certain things that we wanted. Another thing, huge fan of laser treatments in general too. So it's like, oh, so looking forward to re-upping and getting back into the swing of things, whether it's something that you're doing like once a year, twice a year, quarterly. There are some things that can really, really help to just boost your home care products that you're using.
I love that. And okay, so we've got sorry, your bright skin is in.
Okay, so
Or no,
bright
your
skin
skin
is
is
in.
no, sorry, your skin but better.
Yes, that's number
And then we
one.
were talking about personalized skincare.
Yep, jump to that one.
Okay. And so what else do we have now?
Okay, so I love that you talk about you said bright skin is in, and that is one that I think is so much fun. I think
Okay.
for a number of reasons. Number one, I really love the last 2 years when with that term inclusivity, and with beauty and with foundation and with bases and spectrum. That really became such a hot topic for all of us in this industry, and it's interesting because it was very much focused on beauty,
Mm-hmm.
where it was fun because this year for us, we were really focusing on how do we shift this over to skin, or I should
Okay.
say in 2020. So that's kind of where we started, where in March of 2020, we launched a product that was called Pro 5 Liquid Exfoliant. Because a lot of times, not everyone is, the most ideal or kind of historically the best candidate for a peel for liquid and chemical exfoliation. Sensitive skin clients, sensitive skin individuals can have that reactivity, irritation. Medium and deeper complexion actually can not just have irritation, but also can hyperpigment if you're not using, kind of the right blend of acids, percentage, pH, all of the things that come into play. And so we really wanted to, yes, still so important. Yes, we're still as a brand as well, focusing on beauty segment, but we wanted to also bring it into skincare. And so for us, it was really important for us to say, hey, this is for all skin complexions, all skin types, whether you are sensitive or not. So we're really finding that with brightening specifically.
I want to say thank you on that. Like, thank you to yourself and all of the other brands out there who have really made strides to make sure that beauty is accessible to everybody in every color. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is. And then again, when you talk about skincare products, you want everyone to be, if somebody's wanting, a more even complexion, if, there are areas of discoloration, uneven pigment, kind of that modeling of pigment on the skin, who doesn't want, more even complexion? We want everyone to be able to use products that are, help to enhance radiance, enhance luminosity. And so big thing that we're seeing is a move away. Hydroquinone has been such a staple. It's been a controversial ingredient. So Amber, we can get into more into that on another.
I want to bring you back on a podcast on this, but let's talk about this because you just before we started this podcast today, you informed me of something that I was blown away by. So a big topic that's been very popular on here has been things like how to get rid of sunspots, how to get rid of melasma, how to get a more even skin tone. And hydroquinone has been one of the things that we've talked about for years and that I've heard for years. But I always knew it was kind of like is it better to say like the redheaded stepchild? Is that right?
Yeah,
Like it was kind of like it was like, yeah, this works, but yeah, maybe it's safe, maybe it's not. So like, what is the deal? And then you told me something that totally blew my mind. So can you like lightly top on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So hydroquinone has been under that category of OTC, which stands for over the counter. There are prescription strength as well. OTC fell under 2% or less. Hydroquinone formulas can be marketed and sold to consumers. So a lot of brands like Glow Skin Beauty had serum products or moisturizer products, that contain 2% or less, and then that prescription would be a higher level. So this year, the FDA actually, it was around the June to July month where, I mean, if we think back 2020, June, July, I mean, there was still so much craziness, so many closures, throughout so many different states and things like that, where it was really interesting because I almost felt like it was kind of just snuck in where there wasn't a lot of buzz there. And I still don't think kind of as the year progressed, I don't think there was a lot of mention about it, but it was actually part of the CARES Act. So that's CARES. And let's see if I have it next to me, what that stands for. So it is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Safety Aid Act. So that's kind of interesting that.
Wait, that we're talking about hydroquinone, essentially
Yeah.
a beauty product in a coronavirus act.
Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Safety. Yes. So
why?
Yeah, good question. Good question. And so the announcement that we received, kind of that the FDA just generally, kind of messaged out. So obviously, manufacturers of products that are working with it, we did hear about it. Was that they were updating reforms related to certain OTC categories. So again, hydroquinone has fallen under OTC category for a number of years. The monograph process. So in order for something, to have that final monograph, I've heard
What's
that
a monograph, just by the way?
So monograph is just, it's think of like just a big report of every single thing, all of the specifics on this ingredient, which allow it to, be utilized. You're following all the different guidelines, the verbiage that you can use for it in percentages, things like that. When you hear years, I would think like, oh, okay, like 3 or 5 years. Well, it can take like 20 years. I didn't know that.
Is this for the FDA to give their report on the product? So the FDA can take 20 years to be like, we're going to make up our mind on this or not?
Yeah, well, it can be. So until something receives its final monograph, it can be available to be marketed to consumers. So it's kind of like it's in that, like it's in process. It's pending, we'll say, but that's a long time. I was really surprised that that was kind of where it landed. So where we're looking at this is that when the CARES Act, this info came out around June, July 2020, it says, although such products have been marketed for years under the non-final OTC monograph proceedings for OTC skin bleaching drug products, they now must be removed from the market within 180 days of an enactment of the CARES Act, which was September 23rd, 2020, unless FDA issues an administrative order directing otherwise. So
that's insane. You've got, and I'm just trying to think about, obviously safety first, but I'm trying to think in an economic stimulus sort of, or an economic, what was it? CARES was the coronavirus
aid relief. Yes.
Which to me sounds like it's like an economic relief package. They're actually telling brands, by the way, you've got to pull across brands, but probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of SKUs of bottles of product that have this under 2% hydroquinone, and you have to remove them in 3 months.
Exactly. And you have to think in terms of a product manufacturer. So number one, the development process for us as a company, it normally takes 18 to 24 months to develop something. Once you develop it, then you have these additional considerations that you want inventory in your warehouse that you can ship out, right? So we need to have inventory, but you also need to have, kind of filled inventory or, bottles that are screened, waiting to be filled. So all of this, it's not like you just hear about it and you're like, okay, we'll discontinue this. It's like, whoa, we have a ton of inventory. Our wholesale partners have inventory. We have open POs, for production.
Yeah. And not only that, I'm also just realizing, because it was also in the time when people were going to use this type of product the most. So after the summer, you're talking about the fall to winters when most people were like, shoot, I'm starting to notice all the sunspots. What do? They would go for one of these products. Jesus, that is nuts.
Yeah.
We need to do an in-depth on this, because I need more of it.
And it is. I think that the history, and just when you kind of put that global lens, about different countries and, really where it's very unregulated, the percentages used, when you're getting to really scary things, long-term use, years using, not giving your skin breaks. Absolutely. It could be scary.
It's not the best,
but it is interesting. So for another,
we're going to do a deep dive on that, because I don't want to derail this too much, because we were talking about trends for 2021. So bright skin is in. So what are some of the other things that we're going to be seeing and doing in order to get that, if one of these major ingredients came off the market?
Yeah. So alpha arbutin not a new ingredient, but definitely feel like that's going to be making some new waves. And I really think it's going to be a lot of mixes of these botanical brighteners together. So you're going to see botanical based licorice is definitely something. Licorice root is something that's been around for a long time. Lactic acid, and a lot of brands you're seeing more and more sort of attaching that vegan claim to it. So vegan lactic acid, in terms of, we know that it helps to exfoliate. When that's combined in a brightening formula, it's going to help your brightening actives to penetrate a little deeper. It also has natural humectant qualities, and it is a brightener too. So you'll find that in a lot. But yeah, it's interesting. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah. Vitamin C is going nowhere. Vitamin C and its derivatives, really help to brighten. So I think you're just going to start to see different mixes of a lot of the botanicals that are mixed together: mulberry, bearberry, all that fun stuff. But if you've purchased a 2% or less from a lot of popular brands, that have had the creams, the serums, you likely are going to be hard pressed to find it.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to find it. Yeah. I know that.
Now, and it's 2021 now. Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking for brighter skin, which we know is going to happen, not using hydroquinone. Like you said, your skin, but better, which is why we want to focus on our skincare. Yeah. Certainly more of this personalized. What else do we have in terms of skin? And then we'll hit beauty.
So I'm going to say something that might freak some people out, for all of you junkies out there, product junkies. I'm one of them. So I get it. I get a little like, when I hear this, the end of more. So, these long, and these 10-step routines, a lot of people are more so wanting to focus on, I want a few amazing products. I want multitaskers. I can focus on that. I want to minimize my routine, but I still want to get great results. So it's going to be really up to manufacturers that we've got to deliver these multifunctional products.
And so, but like, again, and this is going back to that personal skincare, which I asked you before, right? When you've got so many different things to try from, right? So like I've got, you had the EGF,
BioRenew EGF drops. Yes.
BioRenew EGF drops. And then you've got the anti-stress CBD drops. Like, how do you choose which one to use? And before we get into like, what do you think are the major key players that we have to have in a routine?
Yeah. Right? Like oh my gosh. This is so much fun. So going back to how do you choose? Well, one of the really fun things when you have, so like our drops in our serum category, we allow them to be fully customizable. And so you can apply them full strength, or you can add that benefit. So for instance, our anti-stress CBD drops, CBD is anti-inflammatory. It's calming and soothing. So you can put it on as a serum, or you can say, hey, I have this one product that I can make any product that I put on my skin calming and soothing with CBD, whether it's my cleanser, which it's a rinse off. So I'd say skip that one, but any of your leave-on. So think of your moisturizer, your masks, your eye cream products, liquid foundation, tinted moisturizers, things like that. So you can really say, hey, I know my skin is very sensitive. My skin gets red, it's reactive. So I want a hero serum that I can use full strength, and I can really personalize it into other products. EGF is for someone who's—
Before we get to the EGF, I have to stop you for a minute, right? Yes. Because thank you. We had covered the CBD drops on one of the New Beauty Live shows, and you sent me this lovely,
that's the size of it. That's the professional version. Yeah.
And so my girlfriend came over the other day, and she's like, I'm having like really, and another friend asked me, which I wrote to you about the breastfeeding, because she's like, my skin after having a baby is totally on the fritz. But so I gave her the little size, and I kept this. So part of the reason that I've kept this is because your product, of pretty much all of them out there in terms of a topical CBD, has the most CBD.
Yeah. 1,000 milligrams. Yep.
But now that we're on this show, can I ask you, it kind of smells like you were, I don't know.
It smells a little weedy, is what I said.
It smells a lot of weedy. Because I've been rubbing on. So my husband and I have embarked on this fitness journey together, and this stuff, I swear, is so great. So I've been putting it in and like rubbing it into his back and shoulders. But sometimes I'm like, maybe we won't do it before you go to work. Because
it's because it's a full spectrum. So it
smells like the ganj.
Yeah, it does. It does. That little, a little earthy.
Brings me back to my college days.
But it is, and it's because it's full spectrum. So
okay.
you can have the, the isolate where everything extracted except for the CBD. You're not going to get that scent, but because we have the full spectrum, which just allows the plant to be in its more natural state, we have made sure that we're monitoring, and we bring down that THC. So that's what you're smelling.
Sure.
And it's US standards, we can manufacture up to 0.3% THC, but we look at the global lens. And like in the EU, a lot of countries say 0.2% is the max. So that's where it's incredible. It's incredible percentage of the formula creates this overwhelming aroma. And that's part of the thing about the full spectrum too, those natural terpenes, those natural.
I was just thinking, like, when I was putting it on, I was like, if I was like a teenager using this, I think that my parents might have some questions for me when I came home. Just going to say that, but it's great. It really does. I feel like I'm a true believer in CBD. What I've noticed and what I tell people is like, it's not so much that I notice it when I'm taking it. It's that I really notice it when I don't.
Yeah.
It's like the muscle soreness. We actually just did a podcast on this. So we won't go too into the CBD because we literally just did one on CBD. But okay. Anyway, just had to throw this in there with that.
I didn't focus too much on ingredients, but if we were on ingredient trends 2021, CBD, you're going to see.
Yeah.
And it's one. I mean, I've gone into the gas station and seen CBD waters. It's been around for a long time. I think where it's making more headway is in the world of professional skincare, though. And I think that's one of the things. There have been a few brands that have dabbled in it. We launched our CBD product end of August. So it really is something newer that a lot of times for us it's the partnership and the OTC facilities, the labs that we work with that, everyone wanted to make sure that that we were all feeling very comfortable.
Well, at first it was the Wild West, and I've said this before, and I feel like now it's become more regulated. And of course, as marijuana becomes legal, I think that there's going to be even less handcuffing with the CBD portion of this. So I'm really interested to see where that goes. And then we were talking about the EGF drops, which are growth factor, right? Yeah.
Yeah, EGF stands for epidermal growth factor. So again, it's not a new ingredient, but more and more so you're starting to see different sources. So like we use an EGF. That's my dog next to me that's like coughing. Are you okay, buddy? It's okay? Are you okay, buddy? Come here. Let's take your collar off. So it's one of those things that when you talk about with EGF, the controversy really stemmed when it was from the sources, when it was human derived. It could be animal derived, a lot of times from bovine. But more and more so manufacturers are like, okay, we're going to avoid that. How do we find something that can work? I mean, EGF has won the Nobel Prize. Growth factors in that category of research has won the Nobel Prize. EGF has been used on burn patients and victims before. So we know that it stimulates repair. We know it's one of the most incredible wound healing ingredients that's available, but you want to feel good, about where it's from and, kind of all of the things. So you can find different sources, food sources. We have a bacteria strain that we worked with ours. So it's really incredible. We just received our clinical study back not that long ago. And we're all just really, really overwhelmed because it's one of those things that you couple different, kind of the technical, whether you're looking with a Visio scan, something like that, like under the surface of the skin, but then you have the aspect of the people that are using it.
Oh, send me, no, I want to see the Visio because that crazy. To me,
oh my gosh, it's so cool.
It's always where I'm like, this to me is something that you can't, it's harder to, not that brands fudge it, but like sometimes you see the picture and I'm like, well, you didn't light them the same.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've seen, I know what goes into doing clinicals, but I also know that there's ways to kind of creatively help the clinical seem a little bit better. There just is. But I think with the Visio,
like you said, lighting is huge.
Everything.
Where you're like, I've got your number. I see what's going on there.
I see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Her eyes were blue and now they're now they're
Oh,
not
it's so
glue.
cool though. When it's one of those things that kind of moves from, our different department heads in terms of what we're going to be promoting. And then it goes
I want to see
to
them.
like our design team and everything in terms of creating the really incredible pieces that we can show off. But we're just, it's so good. It's one of those things that when you really believe in a formula and you love it and you use it and you're hearing from people that love it, but then when you get that clinical study back and you're like, okay, that's all right, we're good.
I have to say, I know that you had 11 things. I think let's do the skincare because we've been talking now for a while. And maybe what we'll do is we'll come back and do beauty in another one as a part 2.
I love it. And I mean, we can do kind of our nutshell. I think we only have 2 left. One is I have texture and texture play. Again, I feel like this is something that is a little bit of an effect and an evolution to the glass skin effect. So it is when you're wanting that glass skin payoff. The texture, the ingredients that are used in the formula have a lot to do with it. But more and more so, it's funny. I feel like there was a time that people were like, okay, as long as it works, I don't care about anything else. I don't care how it feels, how it looks, how it smells. Now people are like, I want it to look amazing. I want it to smell great. I want it to be fun when I'm putting it on. I want it to feel, kind of have that tactile and that sensorial experience with the product where you want the benefits, the payoff, but you also really want to enjoy it. And so I think more and more so as manufacturers, it's not just like the creams and, that kind of texture. I think so much more with like bounce textures. So like gels, water gels, like things that we describe as like cloud-like. Yes.
You're going to see a lot of that in like moisture. Yeah. Because who doesn't want to be living on a cloud?
I even feel like those melting balms where you're like putting it on and then you're like, this is so silky and wonderful. And so it is, I think that it's one of those things I feel like product development from social standpoint, a lot of things that I'm working into our briefs when we're creating a product is I'm like color, because it is, you think in terms of how is this going to look on social media, as silly as that sounds, that is a consideration that we make now, when we're developing products where you don't want just everything to be clear or like yellow
or just like a gel or white. Yeah.
And it isn't, it's like, but that color better be good. That color better be, a good ingredient, something that's lending to what, the formula is designed to do, but also it is just the texture. So that's going to be a really fun one. And then I love this. I kind of think this is the perfect ending where I feel like clean beauty, again, not new. It's been around, but I feel like it's been so confusing. I feel like no clean beauty standard. There's no list, there's no like universal go-to. If you go on a lot of different major websites and you're buying products and you're looking at clean beauty lists, they're all going to be, there's so much variance.
All over the place.
I've always said it's very subjective.
No regulation.
Clean beauty lists and very subjective. And it is, I feel like more and more so, we know that's not going away though. We know consumers want it. And so it's more so about, we're starting to see brands, and the term that we're hearing is clinical, where you want the high performance products, but you want them to be as clean as possible. So brands are really taking it upon themselves to define and really kind of amplify what clean is, what clean means. So you'll see a lot more free of statements, a lot more, natural ingredient kind of actives and call outs there. But I think that brands are going to really help consumers in terms of further defining it, where you're not left with questions and you're not wondering.
As a product formulator on that, like, do you feel that that you really can get as good results from natural ingredients as you can from some things that are like maybe made in the lab or chemical?
Yeah, it's interesting because it is, when you think in terms of like peptides, peptides are still a phenomenal category of ingredients. And I mean, even like our EGF, so one of our newest products that we launched has peptides in it. And so peptides are fantastic. There are some natural peptides in the world, but the majority of peptides are going to be synthesized. They're going to be derived in a lab. And it's kind of finding that balance in terms of, the best of both worlds, having that efficacious product that really delivers results, but also being mindful. I think, and kind of above and beyond just like synthetic or, lab derived ingredients, but it is sourcing, so it's like, and in chemicals, that word, I say that with like the little air quotes, just because the true definition of like everything's a chemical. So it's sometimes, it's oftentimes bucketed into like, oh, chemicals are bad. But it is, I think more so it's like, coupling the education with the why behind ingredients, letting them know more about the, the supply chain, where you're sourcing things from it, and why. There's definitely something with a uniformity and a consistency factor that you get when you do synthesize something, like vegan lactic acid, when we talk about it, lactic acid in its natural source, if we're talking about being derived from sour milk, well, that's not going to be vegan. It's not going to be friendly for all customers. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a synthetic lactic acid that you're using, so you can get that vegan approval and vegan stamp on it. So,
well, I do love that. Also, brands are listening to customers, and I applaud all the customers out there. Who I've got listeners who write me because we've talked about clean beauty. But I do find that certain people are really all about it. My neighbor, for one, is really into clean beauty because she's got skin conditions that certain ingredients are going to really affect that. And I think that it's wonderful that people are becoming more educated about this. Anna, I hate to do this. We're like running out of time.
We gotta go. We gotta let people get on with their days.
I adore you, and I want to bring you back for the trends in beauty. But really quickly, before we go, like I said, we've touched on 2 of the products, but I feel like Glow Skin Beauty has some really incredible products. So of them, what is your favorite, or let's be honest, what are you using right now in your personalized routine?
Yeah. So, and one of the questions that you mentioned earlier, like what does everyone have to have? Retinol. Have a retinol in your life. And I think I'm a huge fan of retinol, a huge believer in terms of really in your 20s, you should start incorporating, even if it's like 2 nights a week. Be, mindful of what percentage you're using. But it is, I think, one of the things, I actually was just talking about this earlier today with one of my coworkers, where I said, I kind of fell out of the habit of doing my weekly treatment. So like giving myself a little spa service. Right. I was doing something a little bit more monthly, and man, you hit that when we talked 30, we said 40, we threw it out there. For the second time, we're going to throw out 40. When you hit that 40 plus, you've got to, kind of bring that back in. So it is serums for me are morning and night, like must-haves, wouldn't do without. Chemical exfoliation, huge fan of. I have to be really mindful because my skin is so sensitive. Mm-hmm. And so it's finding the balance of having the level of frequency that you want, making sure that you're not going into the realm of being a little too aggressive, kind of irritating your skin. So use it, serums and chemical exfoliants are definitely things in my routine, at least at a weekly basis, if not every day coming in.
Amazing. Well, Anna, thank you so much for being with us. You're coming back already. I'm telling you, we're going to do this. We're going to talk about hydroquinone. We should talk a little bit more about retinols, and we definitely need to talk about what's going on in the beauty world, because I know that Glow Skin has not only skincare, but they have phenomenal beauty products. If people want to know more about the brand, where do you want them to go?
Check us out online. That's going to be our homepage. That's our home base and website, glowskinbeauty.com. Obviously, we have some incredible partners out there. We in October launched a partnership with bluemercury.com, so we love them, as well as dermstore.com. So reach out to either some of our great partners, or reach out directly to us. We are here for you 24/7.
Wonderful. And listen, if you've got questions you want me to ask Anna about beauty, about skincare, she knows everything. You can always write to me, hello@ArtBeautyPodcast. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube @ArtBeautyPodcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.